Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1077 of our daily content grind, and today I am answering a Patreon request because someone had an idea. See, once upon a time, I did a video that was all about vehicles that had never been in Transformers before. Which is kind of odd that 40 years of transforming cars, trucks, and jets, and somehow there is an entire list of vehicles out there that have never received the treatment. However, someone pointed out to me that I have failed to do the same thing for Beast Wars. So that's the Patreon request we are covering for today. Let's take a look at some animals that have never been in Transformers, well, Transformers Beast Wars. There's a few exceptions that have had robots in disguise here. But specifically, they've never had, like, the organic beast approach that Beast Wars had. That's what we're focusing on today. Now, we're starting with an image of Star Upper because he is fictional only, never received a toy, and while he is in fiction, we technically have never had a kangaroo. Now, this is a obvious one if you are from Australia. Hi, Carl. But if you are a fan of, any media, like kangaroos came up a lot in like 90s cartoons from what I remember. It's a fairly popular and very distinct animal. So the fact that it's never been in Beast Wars as an official toy in like full canon, kind of weird to me. And I would still love to have one. I'm not sure how to take the Star Upper approach because it looks like Star Upper's robot mode is technically impossible. I feel like if you're going to transform this one, probably make the legs the arms to kind of emphasize the whole like boxing kangaroo thing. That's kind of Star Upper's thing as well. And I would like to go with that, but unfortunately, I don't think his design is functional. So we would have to do it from the ground up. Not too hard to do. There's plenty of mass on the front of the kangaroo to make the legs flip out. Your body, the tail's gonna fold to the back. I was also instructed to tell like how these would work, by the way, so this is just me giving like off the top of my head ideas. If I can think of a name, I will. Offhand, I was trying to go with High Jump. High Jump. I'm trying to reuse old G1 names for these guys. High Jump is easy for a kangaroo. Okay, now as long as we were talking about culturally significant animals, ones known for very specific parts of the world, we haven't had a panda. And you would think with Hasbro Asia being a thing, and there being a large Chinese market, you would think that we would have actually had a panda transformer before now. I can understand maybe not having it in the Beast Wars cartoon where things are shooting at the panda. But still, very cool, very distinct animal. Haven't had a toy of one. Name escapes me on this one as well, but there's plenty of mass on this. I don't think necessarily you recreate Polar Claw's transformation with it. I don't know, like, yeah, technically that works, but I feel like you've got a little bit more extra mass to work with. I'd like to see more of the Rhinox proportions, like more wide and heavy set than Polar Claw is. More squat. I feel like a panda character needs to be a little bit more squat than our grizzly or polar bear transformers out there. Here's one I really liked the idea of. Again, we're going with ones that are very specific to certain parts of the world. We have not had a camel. And I really would not mind a camel in Transformers. Again, anyone who grew up with Aladdin is going to know a camel. So, in this one, like, we've had similar shapes. Like, this is very Mach Kick in shape. I wouldn't want to replicate Mach Kick, though. The trick is all the bulk, the parts of Mach Kick you recreate is like maybe the upper legs, like of the rear, become the lower legs of the beast of the robot mode because they've got enough fat on there for the shins like fold down from those. I don't know what you do with the beast mode legs. I think you just have to make. I think you'd have to make it so the body opens up. And the legs and the shell would go to the back in order to reveal the robot mode parts. There's not a whole lot I could do with that. Potentially with the camel's neck and head folding up into the chest, I would assume. I like the name Hotspot for it because it's a desert animal, and also because I want to use that hump. I would assume that somewhere in the transformation, that hump would actually move to like the robot mode back where it would be more pronounced and visible, from the front. And I would make it the tank for a flamethrower weapon. That would be the idea. I don't know why a flamethrowing camel amuses me, but it does. And that's how I would do it. So for the list, I wanted to hit a lot of different bases. So we've got some mammals in there already, so we're good on those for a little bit. We'll go back. There's a couple more mammals to throw in here. In fact, we're not going to wait very long here. We want to go aquatic, though. I want to go aquatic. Let's throw in some things that live in the water. I think the literal biggest animal that they've never done in Beast Wars, let alone any Transformer, is a whale. We got one in IDW. This was the beast mode for Tidal Wave in IDW, which was, pretty on the nose. But again, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't actually mind. If Beast Wars had a Titan class, it would be a blue whale. And it would probably be named Tidal Wave before the name Tidal Wave was even a thing. The weird part about doing aquatic Transformers is that it's kind of similar to Cyber Shark, where you've got to kibble up the bottom as much as possible. You have to panel cover it as much as possible. So the robot, no matter what, is going to spill out of the toy. I would try to figure out some different way to go about it, though, if that is entirely possible. The tail would probably end up being some kind of big axe weapon. I'm trying to figure out, do you have the Rhinox open mouth thing on the chest, or what do you do with the whale head? I don't know. This one escapes me a bit, but this one is, admittedly, I'm throwing it in there for significance, but it's not one I would ever expect a Transformer for. No, if we want to go whale Transformer, we have to go much smaller, and my brain is on an orca. Now, this one is technically cheating, because Torka is half orca, but he doesn't represent one very well in color scheme or form. Also, Orca technically had a Beast Wars toy, but it was a playset. It didn't actually transform into a robot. So I want one that transforms into an actual robot, please. I want one that transforms into a robot. This one I feel like is a little bit easier to handle. There is a lot of bulk on there, so you might be looking at a Cyber Shark arrangement to things. I like the idea of patterning it more toward modern Cyber Shark, the Generations one, where the head ends up being just a big maw on the chest, and just kind of wrap the robot mode parts around that. It's panels that hold onto the arms and fold out and connect onto the sides of the head in order to form the upper body, that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe this is just the fact that I went to SeaWorld as a kid and Shamu is just permanently emblazoned on my brain. But an orca is a really cool animal. I would love to have one that actually transforms. And then we go smaller, another aquatic mammal, and that would be a dolphin. Dolphins have never been in Transformers either. Probably, again, for the same reason as the panda. No one really wants to invoke the imagery of shooting at dolphins. And again, this would, the only part with this is you struggle to start figuring out how to transform them all differently, right? Because ultimately, Cyber Shark would have the same basic format as an orca transformer or a dolphin transformer, because they aren't technically fish, but they have the body shape of one. So then what do you do? What do you do? At some point, I wouldn't mind one of these being asymmetric. I would actually, maybe the orca is the place to where, the lower half, the belly, the underside, is actually the legs that fold down and close up to become the legs. Everything left becomes upper body and arms, just to separate it out a little bit. Whereas, most of these aquatic Transformers tend to have the head toward the head of the animal. Maybe you flip it around for the dolphin. Maybe the front half becomes the legs. It starts getting tricky, which I think brings us to why we only got a couple of sharks in Transformers. And we didn't, in the a lot of them required a lot of panels in order to make them make sense. If we're going to throw in aquatic animals, though, like purely aquatic, no, not a mammal, not an air breather. There's one I want to throw in, and we technically have something similar, so it might end up being a retool. I want an octopi. I want an octopus. This is our Beast Wars Octo Punch, obviously. Being on the internet long enough, I've seen enough videos of just how cool these creatures are that it makes me want to go, yeah, they really should have been in Beast Wars. Okay, don't get me wrong, Clawjaw is fine. We got a squid. That's fine. And okay, and maybe this would have to end up being a retool of him. Knowing Hasbro, that's what it would be. So you'd basically just end up with a different colored Clawjaw, but with like thicker legs, like big fat boots, you know, for the octopus head. In a proper world, he would get some kind of justice with some actual like new transformation, new body type. But octopus, yeah, I want one. And it's a cool animal. It's a really cool animal. We do have some other animals that are semi-aquatic. You usually find them in or around the water, but they are not water. They do not technically live in the water. But it does present a few unique ones. For instance, we never got a hippo. This one might seem weird. I will admit this is probably for Hasbro. This would be an obvious Rhinox retool. You know, if the company is willing to make a cheetah and a tiger out of the exact same mold, you absolutely know they would do the same thing. You know, they would just make Rhinox gray and swap out the beast head, call it a day. That said, like the tusks would look super cool in the robot mode from a hippo. Hippos are terrifying, by the way. Like the big-headed hippo, these massive, like, angular tusks going all over. They're horrifying when you look inside their mouths. And they're more fatal than most animals on the planet to humans. They don't care. They will bite you in half. So, yeah, potent animal, I will give it that. Maybe not the most exciting of animals, but certainly, like, a significant one. Again, the way to make this would definitely be just, you know, Rhinox retool. That's the easy one. I wish Beast Wars hadn't already used the name Jawbreaker. Because doesn't that just seem like a Jawbreaker type character? I think it's a funny one. Let me have that. Let me have that one. Here's one. I'll let you guess, because the name I was going with on this one was Ice Pick. Again, taking an old G1 name. You just give you a couple seconds just to kind of figure out which animal that I might be talking about. It's not that hard to guess if you really think about it that way. How about a walrus? So again, more towards something that does swim, and obviously like depictions in Beast Wars is why a lot of these aquatic creatures didn't end up happening, because there's only so many things you can do to drag the Beast Wars cast into the water. But interesting animal. Definitely different than anything else we got toys of in Beast Wars. We didn't get seals, we didn't get otters, we didn't get anything like that. But, you know, like the big proper, you know, like, you know, the big proper, like, sea lion type, like, animals and, like, walrus, those would be cool. Those would be kind of cool. Those have a different, unique, and, stature to them. I imagine these just guys like in robot mode would just be big brawler type characters. I'm imagining like to work off of those tusks. I'm actually kind of imagining like underheld daggers, like downward held. There's just something about that seems like it would be a cool way of invoking the beast mode in the robot mode. I like it. What about avian? Here's the weird thing. When I was trying to come up with a list of animals, what struck me is that Beast Wars actually has kind of a shortage of avians. And I feel like that's because a lot of them aren't as distinct to a kid as they could be. Like, as adults will be able to tell, you know, the difference between a falcon and a hawk, but a kid will not. So that kind of cuts that out a little bit. So birds of prey. have a lot of similarities. So, you know, you got an eagle, we got a falcon. That's about all we're going to get. We got an owl in Beast Wars as well. We got a penguin at some point. You know, but that's kind of your lot. You know, we didn't get a whole lot of birds. So I wanted to come up with birds that hadn't been in Beast Wars before. And I came to a vulture. This one interests me for a few reasons. Number one, distinct and cool looking animal, but also it's an animal that's mostly associated with decay and death. So what do you do with this character? Now, would you make it? You know, like, you know, this is, again, I wish the name Dead End hadn't been taken, because here's another one that would have really worked for that. What would you do? Would you actually make it, would you go with the convention and make him just a really grim, kind of morose Maximal? Or would you lean into the stigma of vultures and just kind of play him as like a Predacon, maybe a Predacon who was formerly a Maximal and just decided to defect? You know, this presents some character options that we hadn't really discussed. By the way, I do admit this list is very Maximal heavy. Mostly because I didn't want to go to dinosaurs because I felt that was too easy. We're going to talk about a couple. They will both definitely be Predacons. But I also didn't want to go to anything, like, I will admit, I had trouble on bugs. I had trouble coming up with interesting bugs. But yeah, this was my first choice for a bird. The second choice for a bird, technically not avian, because, well, I guess it is an avian, but it doesn't fly. I want an ostrich. There's a name there was a replacement for Breakdown. One of the trademark replacement names was Breakneck. I think that'd be hilarious, not only for the speed of an ostrich, but also, it has a neck. I thought it was funny. No, this one is another cool one. This is another interesting animal that we never got any kind of representation for. I feel like Hasbro avoided long neck animals. Between the vulture and the ostrich's absence, we also had to wait for Takara to produce a giraffe. Because engineering-wise, yeah, that might be a little bit difficult to work with, and we've kind of seen that. Like they didn't do, like, Long Rack is a cool toy, but they didn't do anything really with the neck. They didn't do anything with the giraffe head that just kind of like hangs really high off of his shoulder. But we have a second chance. I would almost depict this almost like an air raptor. Which I guess, like, it's an Archaeopteryx. It also had the long neck thing going on, thanks to Takara. I'd kind of imagine, like, if Hasbro or Takara ended up doing this toy, it would probably just be a remold of that toy. Except with it, instead of the wings closed up in the robot mode, they figure out something different to do with them in the robot mode. It's kind of like inverse of how Air Raptor works. And yes, I'm using the Beast Machine's name because the Japanese name is like Arcadus or something close to that, and I'm probably butchering it. Okay, let's move on to dinosaurs. I'm only going to throw a couple because there's no end to the number of dinosaurs that we could have put into Beast Wars somewhere. I'm going to put in a couple that are a little bit more current and a little bit more much better well known now than they were in the 90s. The first is the Ketelkadus, which is one of my favorites. So this is basically like the T-Rex of the air. It's a big apex predator capable of flying, and scientifically they shouldn't be able to fly, but they did. And it's terrifying. Yeah, these guys are just extremely brutal dinos. If these were better well known, if these were as well known as, say, a T-Rex, I would almost wager this character would be a rival to Megatron in, like, power and ferocity. That's the kind of character I would depict with this one. I will admit, transformation-wise, I have no idea how it would work. Because it's very thin. It's very lithe in its proportions. I'd probably end up having to do, like, I hate to do things like, oh, the head's going to become the arm, but that might be the only way to use it. But then again, when you've got a beak like that, having a built-in weapon like that on your hand is not a bad option. Just saying. The other one was a Spinosaur. And the thing with the Spino is we're still figuring this one out. We went from it's kind of like a T-Rex, but with a long snout and a big fin on its back, to it's kind of just a gator that was a little bit taller. We're kind of back and forth. They're still figuring out the Spino here a little bit. We've got the one right now, like popular, like pop culture kind of thinks of the one from Jurassic Park, which is how we ended up with Scorn for the for the toy lines. It's an option, and it's still a cool dinosaur, even if we're not sure exactly how it worked or what it looked like. We're figuring it out. Okay, so the one area that got on my nerves here, the one I could not figure out anything good for, and I mentioned before, were the bugs, because a lot of the good bugs are already taken, and the others are just kind of, are they well known enough? Like, the most well-known bugs are the ones nobody likes, and I wouldn't ever ask someone to buy a toy of like a cockroach or a termite that turns into a robot. So I was trying to come up with bugs that are actually kind of cool and would still be distinct from all the other bug transformers in Beast Wars. Which ones hadn't we hit? And then it dawned on me. The humble grasshopper. Our Beast Wars kickback, right? It's just sitting there, you know? And technically, I ran a gambit here. I could have thrown in a stag beetle for thinking other Insecticons. But ultimately, like, we've got a rhino beetle, so I didn't want to do anything too close. I wanted it to be completely different, and this absolutely counts. We've done quite a few of these as G1 kickback, in his various iterations, so there's no lack of ways of transforming this one. But I would feel like it would have to transform kind of similar. There's really no option there. You could bulk out the wings on this one and make the wings the legs, though, almost in a like Beast Machines buzzsaw kind of way. But that would limit what the legs could physically do in robot mode. So this is being on the basic side. You could probably get away with that, and just for the sake of making it distinct. And then you come up with some like cool punchy gimmick for his legs. That's how you ended up. That's how you end up with him. And I'm going to wrap this up. Now, I will say, the requester actually did say I could pick in mythical creatures. But I decided against that because, again, like the dinosaur, it's just too easy. It's just too easy, right? Because, like, you've got only one mythical creature in Beast Wars, and that's a dragon. Everything else is fusors, which that's kind of how they came up with their mythical creatures, but none that matched. So, like, we didn't get a griffin, we don't get a hippogriff, we don't get a manticore, we don't get a chimera. I don't really want to go to that, because that's too much. It's too easy. But I wanted to include one of my favorite animals. I think one of the biggest omissions from Beast Wars. And I would have taken this as a retool of Wolfang. I would have taken it as a brand new mold, whatever. Where was the fox? Where was the fox transformer in Beast Wars? Come on. You were on Fox Kids, and you didn't make a fox transformer. How do you get that wrong? I know they're in Fox Kids and syndication after the whole, after the syndication run and the end of the series. I get that. It's a joke. It's a joke. Point being, they had, like, it's such a cool animal. I love foxes. I love the look. I love the intelligence of them. This is glaring. This is a glaring omission. Like, I would have loved to have seen this. Now, admittedly, he probably would have ended up transforming very similar to Cheetor or Wolfang, since he is just a four-legged mammal. I don't care. I'm very upset a fox never made it into Beast Wars. But I just wanted to end off on a personal grievance and a personal favorite at the same time. But that's just the list for the day. Like I said, like, I could have gone on. Especially if I didn't put so many limits on myself with this. But obviously, tons we could have done. And this is just me sticking to mainstream animals. I didn't even do anything weird or obscure. There's no orchid mantis. There's no mantis shrimp. Cool animals like that. But leave your favorite in the comments below. what is an animal that didn't make it into Beast Wars? That's your assignment for the day, to let me know in the comments which animals should have gotten Transformer toys by now. So, with that said, there's the list. I hope my patron is happy with it. I had fun kind of researching this one. And thank you everyone for watching. As always, I will see you next time.